I never know if it's starting or not. Okay, so we're going to make a video about a very controversial topic. When is it okay for your company to say that you need to stay here whether or not you want to go home and sleep or not? So we were talking about this. We've been talking about this topic. Somebody brought it up. They're like, and then somebody else jokingly said, oh, you're making it bad for the rest of us because, hey, some of us actually care about getting a good night's sleep and stuff. And this video is going to go under the SkillStack Beginner Boost section for a tech lifestyle. Because what does it mean to be a technologist? What are you committing to? What are you signing up for? And in order to have this conversation, I want to start with one very important topic and comparison: the firefighter, the emergency responder. Right? When someone signs up to be an EMT or a firefighter, or even in the military, they know what they're getting into. They know that there's going to be lots and lots of uncomfortable nights, and that for whatever reason, sometimes less than others, usually in the case of emergency responders and military, people's lives are at stake, and it's not too hard to justify working a 22-hour. My buddy's a surgeon. He's a very successful surgeon, actually, and he regularly would work 22 hours, and he gets his sleep in when he can, and that's a part of the job. So how does being an IT person, whether you're a developer and an operations person, how does that compare? And what are the expectations of you that are, justified for your employer to make of you? And this is a really tough topic because a lot of employers would see themselves as, people are going to die if you don't work this extra hours. If you're just going to sign off and say, nope, you can't make me stay, I'm going to go home and sleep and be with my wife. And I have a couple stories about this. The first one I have is when I was working at Nike.com. So when I was working at Nike.com, my wife at the time she had 2 young toddlers at work, at home, and she was trying to manage those toddlers' lives and everything. And we went out to a Sunday dinner. We were supposed to go to a Sunday dinner, and I went in because I needed to pick something up from work. I can't remember what it was. And it turned out that my whole team was there at work on the Nike.com project, and they had an emergency that they hadn't been able to page me for or something, and they needed me to stay. This was when I was a developer on the Nike.com project, and I was building the very important the payment system. I was involved with specifically the shopping cart and the payment system for the tool, and they needed me. And my manager saw that I was in and said, because I was there, she said, you need to stay here. You need to stay here. We need you. We got to have you here. I'm so good to see you. And I was like, no, I'm on my way out. I'm going to dinner with the family, with my wife and her family. And yeah, I know. There we go. Someone bought a fart in the middle of the YouTube video. What a surprise. That's totally okay. I think it's hilarious. So then my wife came in at the time. She came in and she said, where are you? Why are you waiting? Why does it take you so long? She goes, they want me to stay in for work. And she ended up yelling at them. I mean, like screaming at them. She had a total emotional meltdown. And she was screaming at them saying, you don't know how hard it is to be a mother. It's blah, blah, blah. And one of the persons says, I have a dog. And she goes, you have a dog? Do you have any idea what it's like? And my wife just literally destroyed these people, these poor, wonderful people on my team. And my poor wife too at the time. I mean, she just wanted to have a nice Sunday dinner, and they were working me 90 hours a week easily, and they were only paying me 30 grand a year, which was absolutely offensive because when I'll fast forward the story, so they put us, it was really tough, right? And they let me have that time. So I said, fine, I'm going to swear here. I wasn't Doris, actually. This was my other wife. And I'm not going to say this, because, the swear word. So I said, and I was Mormon at the time, so it matters. I said, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I thought that was going to lose my job right then, and I left. I walked out, I got in the car, I got in the minivan, the transmission was blowing out, and that was apparently one of the things that we yelled about during the time that my first wife, that's what she yelled about. And the next day, I came into work thinking I was going to lose my job. My manager sat me down in the middle, sat me down and said, we understand your transmission is bad and you need a new one. We'd like to buy you a new one. You got to understand, that was like $2,000 repair, right? So rather than getting fired, my manager said, here you go. fast forward like 6 or 7 months, nothing has changed. They're still working us just as hard as they ever were. They were literally teasing about locking us in our cubicles with caution, crime scene tape and everything. And they would bring us really expensive, salmon and I remember, ham locks and all kinds of good food, because they were trying to make a deadline that Phil Knight had promised we were going to make on time. And I was like, this is not happening. And so they put everybody in a room, and inside of that room, they told everybody in the room, it's a good thing I wasn't there, I probably would have yelled at them. They put everybody in a room and they said, look, we understand everybody's having a hard time. It's just really, this is, you guys are struggling and blah, blah, blah. And this is what they said. We understand that this is true, but we want you to understand that Nike.com is a .com, and it has a .com culture and expectation. And if this workload is too high for you, then this is probably not the right place for you. Half the people in the room quit within the next 24 hours. Half of the people quit. And so, I ended up, half the people quit, and I came back in the next day and I said, what the hell is going on? Why is everybody packing up? Why are so many people leaving? They said they told us that it was not going to change. It was going to be the same thing as usual. And they told us to leave if we didn't like it. Half the people left, and one of the persons left. His recruiter called me within 3 days, and the recruiter said to me, he said, look, I can't talk. I have a job. I have families. I have toddlers. I can't give up this job. I was terrified. I couldn't quit. I wanted to, but I couldn't quit. At least I thought. And the recruiter, I said, please don't talk to me and bother me. I need to focus. He goes, well, so-and-so who just quit recommended you. And here's, he says you're the best, one of the best people on the team, and we should definitely go for you. And so he said I should personally call you. And I said, fine. But I said, but I really can't talk to you unless you can double my salary. I told him some ridiculous number. He said, absolutely, we can do that. Can you fly to Dallas next week? I flew to Dallas, I interviewed, I got a job for more than twice the salary that I was making at Nike on Nike.com. And I signed on to IBM and boom, had an $80 per diem for a month on my first month of training. It was sky's the limit. My wife was like completely ecstatic, and my whole future just looked totally different because somebody actually had the courage to tell me what I was really making. So the moral of this story is that if you're gonna go someplace, you have to know what the expectations are, and sometimes those expectations literally are you need to work 90 minutes a week or not. It's not that I made more money, it's that you need to know what the expectations are. And that particular job's expectation was that they were going to underpay me and they were going to work me 90 hours a week. Now, that's one job, and that's one I left, and I reset the expectation of working for a company that didn't have the same expectation but paid me double the money. And why is this important? Because you need to set that expectation. Let me tell you another job. So another job that I took where they made me a system administrator, after my first job at IBM where I was a system administrator, the expectation was that when the systems would get down, you stayed around until it was fixed up. So I did. And the stuff would go down, and I stayed until it was there, it was fixed up, and the next day, my manager sent a bouquet of roses to my wife, the same wife who had yelled at the other people at Nike.com, and said, we are so grateful that you let us have your husband, but he's been critical to fixing this stuff. This isn't to brag, it's just to say the expectation was different. I was expected to be there. I was expected to be there and to fix the problem because I was being paid as a system administrator to keep things running. And if it hadn't been that way, it might have been a different thing. So some developer jobs, they're going to tell you straight up, we expect you to be, we're going to pay you this amount of money, but we expect you to do like, whatever amount of time and energy in the thing, and you just need to know what those expectations are. But in the IT field, particularly in operations, there's an unspoken expectation that you will stay with the job until stuff gets fixed. That means if the business critical systems are going down, I have one story about this too that's kind of fun. So one of the guys that I've talked about a lot, who actually gave me a thanks award for teaching him Linux, he was on a what's called a bridge call. That's when stuff hits the fan and everything goes down. And we were on this call trying to get the systems back up. Production systems were down, and some jobs don't have expectations. Yeah, that's probably true too. But in this particular job, the expectation was that we would keep systems running, and there was literally nothing flowing. It was Consolidated Freightways. I can tell you the account that we were on, and there was literally freight not moving and money being lost because the systems were down. And so we had to sit on a bridge call no matter what until the thing was fixed. And a bridge call is when they get all the people, and they are talking about it. and back in management environments, yes. And so, and I just remember being on that call. I mean, it went into the wee hours of the morning, 4 a.m. from my time, and this guy, he literally fell asleep on the call and was snoring on the call. Nobody could hear anybody else. Nobody could hear each other. He was totally snoring, and they were like yelling in the phone. They were yelling in his name, Trent. That was not his name, but they were yelling in the phone. They were like, Trent, wake up. And they couldn't get him to wake up because he was like, nobody could hear. Like, just put the guy to bed and so he could come back up, because the expectation was you were going to stick around and you were going to contribute to getting the problem solved until it was getting solved. So if you're going to take up the operations field, that's going to be a thing. If you're going to take up the security field and you've been hacked, I remember one time the system admins were up for like almost 3 days trying to find how they'd been hacked. And they were tracing it. I remember that because they had the police in, and they were like taking pictures of things, and they were capturing key logs of the person that was doing this stuff. It was a big deal, and everybody had to be on site until the emergency was taken off, and then they went to bed. Same with my wife. My wife right now, she has a different expectation when they're doing a show. There's a big expectation to push totally really hard, but they have sort of a soft expectation that you're gonna, cool down and take some time off later. This idea that you're gonna punch the clock and do 40 hours is not a thing in IT. Now, so stand-up meetings are like that. So the point of it is that if you're gonna join into IT, if you're gonna get into IT tech lifestyle, you just have to know that you're signing up for a different type of lifestyle that does not work 9 to 5. It doesn't work 9 to 5. In fact, I have a relationship with my manager. They know very well that I use the daylight whenever possible for things that you can do in the daylight, so that I can do things at night. Sometimes when my brain works better at night, when I can focus and the family's asleep and everything, and I get a lot of coding and I get a lot of systems, management, API development, whatever I'm doing, I can do it during the off hours. So the lifestyle of a technologist is not always punch the clock. You do have to be there for meetings, and you do have to be there to interact. Now, today I missed a meeting completely, just totally missed a meeting because I wish it was not available. And occasionally that's going to happen. But on the whole, people expect you to be at the few stand-up-y kind of meetings that are there, and if you let the two cross, they can definitely control. And so you do have to set up boundaries. And I got to tell you, that's one of the biggest challenges being an IT professional, is there's really no rules about it, right? So you kind of have to set up those rules and those expectations with the person that you're working with the team that you're working with, and every team is different. Some systems administrator roles for a particular job are highly critical, and people, things will stop moving, freight will stop, and sometimes people will die if you're like in medical tech. So, you have to kind of weigh that, and if that's the kind of thing you want to be involved with. But yeah, make sure that you take care of your health, make sure that you get a lot of sleep, because your brain will work better when you get that sleep. We were joking about all the different ways to get sleep on the job. This is what led to this conversation, because people will keep, surgeons will have a room they can go sleep in. IT professionals, a lot of us will keep a pillow under the desk so you can take a nap and get your brain up to speed so you can do the things that need to be done to make sure your job gets fulfilled and all the expectations are met. That's